Cait Donovan, what I called you today, my burnout fighting bestie.
I loved it. I felt very honored.
Thank you for coming on my podcast. You've had me on your podcast, Fried, the Burnout Podcast, a couple of times. And I'm so excited to have you here with me on the Blissed podcast.
And I'm so excited to be here. It's been so fun watching you create it and watching it grow and seeing the people you're pulling on here. It's really cool to watch.
It's been a fun project. We had chatted, I think we did like an Instagram live or something early last year about your book, Bounce Back Ability Factor. And now, like, I've read it again. And I remember saying then, this is a book that doesn't belong on your shelf. It belongs on your desk because there's like sticky notes. There's things to refer back to.
I've heard that a few times now. One of my clients, she's working with me currently and told me she's reading the book for the third time. I'm like, you need me and my book at the same time. I feel like I'm not doing a good enough job as your coach if you also need my book right now.
Oh, well, you can't hold on to that.
No, it's just
reading
funny.
it again, I feel like there's no way you had this much of a premonition on how much we would need this year. But it seems very... Is fortuitous the right word? It seems very much
fortuitous for me. Yeah, for sure. I've been talking about burnout since way before it was popular. And this book I wrote
cool.
Yeah, before it was like super cool. And this book, when I read a poem my senior year of high school, it was by Charles Bukowski. Everybody knows Charles Bukowski. And it said in the beginning of the poem that you're an author when you can't hold the words in anymore, and you shouldn't write until the words are basically like being puked out, until it's coming out and you can't keep it in anymore. So for me, writing this book was that process. I read that when I was 17, 18 years old, and it took until I was 37 to start writing. So it's 20 years since I read that. But I knew when I read it that someday I would be an author. I just didn't know when I was going to get to the point where
I don't have those words that are puking out. So
yeah, exactly. Like, when am I going to get to that point? And then when it happened, I was like, oh, that's what that feels like. Like, I felt like if I didn't get this out, then I wouldn't be able to learn anything else because I had like run out of megabytes. Like, I didn't have any space left.
Oh, wow.
And I'm a learner. I like to learn.
This is all you could think about. This was just filling that space for you. And you're like,
yeah, I got to get it out.
I've got to get it out. I'm just going to dive into it. Do you care?
Yeah,
I didn't fully intend on this being like a...
I'm into it. Let's do it.
Okay, here's a big one. And I was actually talking to a client about this morning. And I was like, listen, here in a couple weeks, listen to my podcast, because all of this I need to talk with this author about. The high achieving woman and mother. You talk about it in the book and about how so much more ends up on her shoulders. The man starts his business. He can usually lean on his, assuming you have a husband, wife, kid situation. The man starts a business. He can usually lean on his wife more so than normal to handle things at home. The woman starts the business. Even if I have an awesome partner, I have a really awesome partner. He he's the one that I hear other women being like, you're so lucky he does laundry. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's so much luck. But still there's this, whether we do it to ourselves or it's ingrained in society, wherever the formula comes from, the woman starts the business. She still has her responsibilities at home. Even if he's still supportive, it just doesn't flesh out the same way. And then this last year, shit.
Mm-hmm.
This last year,
mothers became teachers on top of everything else.
I never wanted to be a teacher.
Ever.
I love teachers. It's not me. I don't have it in me.
Yeah.
So women entrepreneurs, like you talk about here, and I feel like I said, you had no idea how relevant it was going to be. This has all been fallen on us in a new way. And I'm kind of pulling from other parts also where you talk about searching for that silver lining first. And I feel like we've been in this whirlwind, and I promise this isn't my own personal therapy session, but maybe it is.
I mean, that might be a good thing. Let's do
Sure,
it.
let's go there. It's been this whirlwind of that natural more falling on the woman's shoulders. If we're talking about women entrepreneurs, more of our household, even if it's not children, more of the caregiving of other family members, more of the general caregiving and householdness falling on our shoulders. Plus, we're trying to take care of our clients in a new way. Plus, we're trying to protect our income in a new way. We're burning out by this. And then on top of it, it's, well, at least you still have your income. Well, look on the bright side. Your family's all still healthy. Other people aren't. You should be grateful.
Punch you in the throat. Shut up.
Talk to me.
Yeah, right in the throat. This, I feel like we are so, maybe I'll talk about myself. I won't talk for everybody. I'll talk about myself. I can be so uncomfortable with my own uncomfortable emotions that other people's uncomfortable emotions are impossible to handle. So if I can't sit with my own, can I say the word crap? That starts with an S. Okay.
You can say all the words.
Okay, great. So if I can't sit with my own shit and allow myself to sort through it and choose what I need, what I don't, what can I let go? Where does the boundary need to be? If I can't do that with myself, I'm not going to be able to do it with other people. So I'm going to try to paint their lives as prettier than they are for them so that I don't have to deal with their emotional discomfort because I don't know how to deal with my own.
Yeah.
That's why sitting in the muck, learning to sit in the muck sometimes is so important. And this is like, I am big into social justice. And at the same time, I believe that privilege does not prevent burnout in any way, shape, or form. Oftentimes, I work with women who are in highly privileged situations on various levels, and they have been burnt out for 5, 6, 7, 8 years because they feel like they should look on the bright side. They have it better than other people. So they don't allow themselves to be objective about the fact that, yes, you can have gratitude and recognition for these amazing bits and pieces of your life that are wonderful. But if there are pieces that stink like shit, they're shitty. And that's fine. Let's fix them. And because you do have a certain amount of privilege, I think that gives you almost more of a responsibility to fix it, because the joy that you can live with on a day-to-day basis is good for not just you, but the world. So if you're avoiding being joyful because you're already quote unquote lucky, you're not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah. I had somebody, say something similar. And then the thought process to me was, you actually can't take someone else's burden from them. If you try to, you've just multiplied it. You're now both carrying it.
Well, and this is the knot theory, right? So we can go right back into the book. I don't even remember what chapter it is, but the theory of the knot is simple. If everybody could just close their eyes, just kidding. But I'm going to paint a picture. There's a net that covers the world. Just imagine. There's a net that covers the world. And above each human, there is a knot. I always picture this as like a, tan sailing rope, but you can picture it however you want. It's not important. Your job while you're here on this planet is to maintain the integrity of your own knot. And you have to do this. You must do this Because when you don't, when you insert yourself under someone else's knot and try to fix their problems and solve their stuff, you are abandoning yourself, abandoning your knot. Therefore, it is sagging, and the people around you have to now work twice as hard to keep yours up because you've left to deal with Sally down the street.
Because you're all tinkering on Sally's knot.
Right. Like, get off Sally's knot. Sally's an adult. She'll be fine. And there are exceptions, of course, like part of my knot is doing the work that I do. So my clients are part of my knot, but their whole entire life isn't part of my knot. And that was a big mistake I made when I was an acupuncturist. I wanted to help them solve everything that was wrong in their lives. I wanted to be their acupuncturist, their therapist, their best friend, their cheerleader, their doctor, their nutritionist, the person that remembers their birthday. That I wanted to be everything to these people because I thought that if I was, then they would finally feel like I was valuable. And if they thought that I was valuable, then maybe I would think I was valuable.
Then maybe you could accept that conclusion.
Maybe. It didn't work. It didn't work that way, but other people are part of your knot in two different ways. They're part of your knot because there are other people whose knots are attached to yours. In fact, the entire world's knot is attached to yours. So when something goes wrong in your knot, you're pulling on everybody. So that's one way. But the other way is other people are sometimes part of your knot. It's just you have to know how much of it really belongs to you.
Yeah.
Where your real boundaries are and how much belongs to the other person. As a mother, I'm not a mother, just like caveat, I'm not a mother. But as a mother, according to the Chinese medicine traditions and according to neuroscience, you kind of share a nervous system with your child until they're between the ages of 6 and 8. This is when they start really developing into their own person.
Interesting.
So until your child is 6 or 8, like they're your knot. And so people try to create separations here and say, like, I have to take care of myself. Yes, you do. And also that includes your child during that time, especially. But when they get to a certain age, you also have to send them to their knot.
Yeah. And that's especially my little one is that he's 9. So my little one, it's very much learning.
Right.
That creating knot separation. Mm-hmm. In the weirdest year of the world.
Right.
In the time that we don't even know which way's up. We don't know where the knots are.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what I don't think I know because I'm hearing it. I'm having these conversations with my clients and my friends that's really just what's been so hard. And it's, with that knot theory, it's that we all need more than anybody else has to give right now. And it's leaving us feeling all the burned out.
All sorts of burnt out from the top, from the bottom, and from the sides. And the solution is to constantly return to your own knot, knowing that doing that is good for the whole. Take care of yourself for other people, right? This is not self-care as selfishness. This is take care of yourself for the sake of all of us. So that we can then take care of each other, so that we can lean on each other. I think that community, I know that, again, I don't think this is scientifically proven a million times over. I know that community is a burnout prevention factor. I also know that when you're burnt out and your brain is literally fried, your ability to connect with other people is gone. Yes. Your empathy is gone. Your mirror neurons are gone. So you have got to fill yourself up. You have got to maintain the integrity of your knot. You have got to help yourself for the sake of all of us.
For all of it. Let's talk about the community thing, because this is also, have you read Sean Akers' book, The Happiness Advantage?
Oh God, maybe. This is an older one.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's another one that's tattered and wet from the bathtub and has tons of sticky notes in it.
Yeah.
And I actually had this conversation with my son because he's very much an introvert, and to him, that equaled he needs to stay in his room with the lights off 24/7, and that's where his happy place is. And I said, no. Everyone, introverts, extroverts, everyone, your happiest place is in a strong community, a strong social network. Your highest level of happiness and success measurement is a strong community and social network. That just is going to look different for extroverts and introverts. And how, like you're saying, how you're able to show up for that community and need them to show up for you will look a little bit different. Maybe you do need quiet alone time mixed in with it, but it doesn't mean it's gone. And that doesn't mean that's your happiest place.
Yeah.
And again, not to belabor this last year, but that's one of the first things that got taken from us.
Yeah.
And so we're burning out. That community that we need is gone. Or then there's like this weird, like, is it okay to still have friends? Is it okay to interact with people?
Well, and a lot of us took this time to evaluate relationships. Mm-hmm. Are these still the friends I want? Are these the things that are nourishing me? In the beginning of burnout coaching, I often have people that are feeling burdened by their friendships step away from them for a month or two so that they can figure out if the friendships that they have are the friendships that they need. Having a community is not as good as having your community.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
Yeah. The community that has that best symbiotic relationship. Both serving each other and lifting each other up.
Yeah.
And, and that's where that book I mentioned, his research was based on Harvard students. And he's like, what a perfect sector of humanity to watch people get burnt out. And one of the first things they do is withdraw.
Yeah.
When that strong social network is actually what they need most. So how do we do that? We then apply it to our real world, and we're running our business and taking care of our not. How do we keep ourselves from withdrawing?
I don't think we do. I think withdrawing is part of the process. So if you look into the neuroscience of what's happening during burnout, the prefrontal cortex is shrunken. And that means that literally your ability to connect with other people has been diminished. So while a good community is a burnout prevention factor, this is why there's a difference between your community and a community. If you have a community that is not providing, you were using the word strong community, in the sense of keeping you healthy and keeping your brain healthy and keeping you supported, the word strong means safe.
Yeah.
So safety is the most important thing in a community. Not that you'll never have anything bad happen to you, but that you know that no matter what happens to you, there will be support.
There's ride or die in there. Yeah.
There's ride or die in there. Right. And that's really, really important. So when we're talking about a solid, good community, a strong community, what we're talking about is a set of people that allow you to feel safe. So if you burnt out, there's likely some people in your community that don't belong there, first of all. So withdrawing is not always the worst idea. And you do need to, at that point, allow yourself to create enough safety within your own world to allow your nervous system to settle, to allow your brain to regrow so that you can then start reconnecting with people. So I don't think that withdrawal it's a symptom of burnout, and it's not good for you long term, but it's not inherently bad or needs to be demonized in and of itself. If you're pulling away, there's a reason. Yeah. And we need to reevaluate what your needs are, because most of us that burn out, let's be honest, we are people pleasers, overachievers, and we're very out of touch with our wants, needs, desires, and preferences. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Preferences is a big one.
Preferences is a huge
out of touch with our
one.
Or
huge.
We treat them as irrelevant.
Totally irrelevant. Well, a lot of times people don't even know. So we're going to go down a rabbit hole that I have been loving lately. And I've been talking about this for like a year, but it still is getting to people. So I'm going to keep using this example. When was the last time, my dear friend Sarah?
Oh gosh, I've got to answer.
Oh yeah.
She did not warn me.
Get ready, girl.
This is.
Get ready, girl. When was the last time you held your pee because you thought, I'll just finish this email. I'll just finish this call. I'll just get this carrot chopped. I'll just do this one thing, even though your body is clearly telling you it is time to go to the bathroom. Today, yesterday, the day before?
This week. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll say I love this example. I love this. I didn't know it was coming because this is an example that I use with my clients. I'm like, guess what?
It is.
Your body functions get to happen because in the legal world I came from, especially women in that industry, and the part being real estate law, but apply it where you will because it's not unique to it. But the women in the industry were known for constantly having UTIs.
Yeah.
Because we were so busy,
you couldn't go to the bathroom.
A break to go to the bathroom, which is fucking ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But do you know how normal it is? It's so normal.
Mm-hmm.
We do it all the time. You know how many UTIs I've treated as an acupuncturist because of this? Oh, I'm just too busy during the day. Mm-hmm. Like, unless you are in the middle of a brain surgery, you can pee.
You can go pee. Well, now it's kind of a joke in my house, and my kids don't love this joke because if it's like, Mom, one more thing. I'm like, I don't want to pee my pants, but I don't want to pee my pants. And I'll have this little sing-song tune about not wanting to pee my pants.
But yes.
And they're like, okay, just go.
So then the question goes out to the listeners today, right? Like, if you're not allowing yourself to pee, that means that the signals that you're giving your body, or that the signals that your body is giving you, are not important. So how can you be aware of the rest of your needs? How do you feel like your body is supposed to communicate with you when you don't even go to the bathroom when you need to? When you've needed water for the past 3 hours, but you couldn't be 45 seconds late for a Zoom call, so you decided to just deal with it.
And that's the
go
whole
get your
cycle.
Water. That's the whole cycle.
The cycle. It's like, well, I can't drink water because I'll be too busy to pee. And and now we're dehydrated and our gut health is challenged. And
we have UTIs. No wonder we feel like shit.
And if we had looked at our goals, because these are these high achieving women, if we had looked at our goals, step back into 10 years ago us and said, don't you want to achieve all this and have UTIs because you actually are too busy to go to the bathroom? That's going to be on your resume. And I know you're really good at hydrating now. You got your big old water jug. That's going to go away because you won't have time to go to the bathroom. We would have been like, screw that. I'm not doing that.
No, that's not happening.
But we get to set our goals every day. And this almost perfectly transitions to this permanency thing. Mm. We get to set our goals every day. Mm-hmm. We are not sentenced to our goals from 5 years ago or 3 years ago or yesterday.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
And you talk about replanting.
But this is what I thought I wanted.
And if I don't do this anymore, everybody's going to think I failed. Mm-hmm. And if I make a change, then I'll just look like I suck and nobody will trust me to be successful at anything in the future.
And no matter where I am, you're happy when you make yourself happy on the inside. So it doesn't matter where I am or who I work for, where I live or who I'm with, because I have to work on my own happiness from the inside.
Mindset.
No, just no.
Well, and that's where I feel like I have this mindset conversation every episode, and I'm proud to. It's so important. sure, we need to do lots of work on our mindset and be cognizant of our thoughts and the neural pathways we're creating with our thoughts. And you can't mindset away your UTI because you refuse to pee, because you overcommitted yourself or have a story that you're overcommitted and have to do all these things before you just take care of the most basic physical functions of your body.
Yeah. And you cannot fill your cup if you're not meeting your basic needs. If you're not peeing and drinking water when you're thirsty, there's no way you are going to be filling your cup every day. You will not feel fulfilled. It's also very hard to fill your cup when you don't feel worthy of it being full, right? Yeah. If you don't think you deserve that cup to be full, it's just not going to fill up. That's what I did that to myself for years. And while I was doing that to myself, and I don't say that in a judgmental way, it's just what happened. That was the path that got taken. It was the lessons that I learned. It was the things that I absorbed from my family. It was whatever. It was just my story. It's just a story like everybody else's. But while I was doing that, I was also in a country that didn't suit me. I just don't jive well with Poland. I love the language. I love my husband. I love my best friends. Great people. Amazing, beautiful countryside. Don't like living there. Don't like it. Not good at it. And I had, 5 years of life coaching to fix myself enough to be happy wherever I was.
To try to gratitude your journal your way into loving living in Poland.
Yes. And I was like, if I just focus on the good, and I was at that time, 25 to 30. So I'm going through all these things and I'm practicing metta loving kindness meditations in the grocery stores because if I just high vibe enough, I'll shift the whole country, obviously.
That's some toxic shit.
Right? I'll just, people are a little bit aggressive. And I understand why. There's a lot of history to why the people act the way they do, but it was really hard for me. And so I just thought that if I went into the grocery store and kept myself clean and clear and positive all the time, that all of my interactions would be lovely, because that's the world of life coaching will teach you that.
Yeah.
The world of positive thinking will teach you that. And it's bullshit. Sometimes, like you said the word replanting before, sometimes you just need to be replanted. Sometimes you need a new community. Sometimes you need a new relationship, Yeah.
And I'm in love with the way you talk about Poland, because nobody's a bad guy in your story.
No.
The Polish aren't the bad guys. The country's not the bad guy. You're not the bad guy.
No.
It's okay for things to not fit.
Yeah.
And no one's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the resistance for replanting that needs to happen, because somebody's looking for who the enemy is.
Right.
And so,
because they need a valid excuse to
need a good excuse. They need to create conflict.
Yeah.
When it's okay for things to just be a poor fit.
Yeah.
There are how many people in the world?
We're not all going to jive, folks.
The odds.
There's going to be some of you listening right now saying, "Oh my God, could this girl shut up?"
Yeah. And guess what?
Right?
You can just close it down. And that doesn't mean just turn it off.
That's fine.
And you're awesome. And we can still be awesome. You don't need a bad guy to make a shift. And I think that's where that same false permanency comes into place, that we don't replant when we need to. We don't make the changes that we need to make because we're so busy gratitude journaling about it. And it's like, well, I told myself all these things were awesome about it. And so it's, this situation's not the bad guy, and I can't be the bad guy. That will cut to my core. So if there's no bad guy, I got to stay here. I have.
If nothing's wrong, then it must be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And we have this really weird permanency story. I can never move. I could never leave this relationship. We attach our past to it. I've been friends with this person forever. They're my best friend.
Except for they suck. And
are they really the best? They're your longest friend. But
let's use clear language.
And I think we talked about this on your podcast, is there's no waste.
Right.
Just because you've done something for a very long time, whether something shifted and now it's not a good fit what it used to be, or maybe it's just always been a shitty fit, but you struggled finding who the bad guy was, you found your silver linings, and you kept shoving that square peg in the round hole. But now I have to do it forever because I've done it forever. I can't waste all that energy and time I put into it.
Yeah.
Nothing's wasted unless you keep doing it. That's a waste.
Yeah. And even if you do for a little while, even if it takes you a minute, that's okay. And I think as far as the burnt out brain is concerned, making those changes is hard because the part of your brain that interprets threat is enlarged when you're burnt out, right? So if your amygdala is enlarged, that means that everything that you do that's different from like your normal routine is seen as a threat and is going to send you into a state that feels like a lack of safety, send you into a state of fear, and send your nervous system into overdrive. So making those changes when you're burnt out is really a big ask.
Yeah.
So to me, knowing that you need to make a change, but you're unable to make it because you just literally don't have the oomph or the ability
like the impossible task.
It feels like the impossible task. Then heal as much as you can where you are first. Heal as much as you can to the point where you can make the decision and at least move forward. The rest of your healing will likely happen somewhere else. So with someone else, somewhere, whatever, the relationship, family, whatever. But it's okay to stay put and allow yourself time to heal as much as possible, because chances are full recovery isn't possible in the situation that doesn't fulfill you, right? So I'm not saying you're going to get to 100%, but I am saying that you can probably build yourself up enough to convince your body and your brain that what you're about to do is safe. And this is why we choose a bad guy, right? Like, this is why we do that. So if you need to choose a bad guy, go ahead. When I first was telling this story, Poland was the bad guy. Yeah. Just to be like very clear that I have evolved in this process and have shifted the way I talked about it, because I blamed Poland for years. If I'm going to be real honest and real transparent, I learned that there didn't need to be a bad guy after the fact. I know that now, so I can make different changes in my life now without going there. But your burnt out brain, it might need you to say, but this is a threat and we need to get to safety.
We need to get safe, get this threat away.
Yes. So if you need to create a bad guy and you do it with intention and you say, like, this is the bad guy I'm going to choose and I'm going to choose it on purpose, and it's valid enough, but I'll shift my tune once I'm over here. But like, I need this bad guy right now. Like that's okay. There's a reason you're using that tool. There's a reason your brain went there.
I get it. Yeah. And no, like, kind of have that agreement with yourself. I'll go back and look at it again.
Yeah. I don't need to be bitter for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You've given a couple tips, but I want to like put them in, like, do this, then this, then this. So we're talking to a high achieving woman, entrepreneur, maybe serial entrepreneur. She has a team. She has a family. She's losing her shit right now. The idea of doing, like we talked about, the idea of making any changes, the idea of doing anything feels like the impossible task, other than just, now we're on autopilot of kind of the self-harm. What's the first thing she can do?
To me, the first thing now, I've shifted this over the years. The beginning of our processes look very much the same. The life pruning, like, start cutting stuff out that's not necessary. Get rid of everything that's you don't need for survival. Every task, every calendar event, everything that you don't need for survival, just get rid of it. And that was always where I started. And I still think that that's important. But I'm now starting at write down all your resentments. Let's figure out where your boundaries are broken. Let's get rid of things that way. We start with resentment.
Yeah, because I was going to say, but how do you prove? Everything feels like a non-negotiable. And I think that was talking about last year, that was one of the hardest parts. And I know I shared this with you privately was, I would love to prune. Am I going to kick my kids out of my house? Some days I want to. But everything felt like the non-negotiable. But I know that's not unique to last year, because when we're managing our business and our friends and our social life and our networking, everything feels like it can't be pruned.
But it can.
But and and I like starting with, what are you pissed about doing?
Yeah. What's really, really bugging you? Where are you being super passive aggressive? Where, no judgment. Where are you seeing something pop up and being immediately irritated before you even know what's going on? Like for me, when I had, a very full-time acupuncture office, I had a 3-month waiting list. I was up to here in patients. I was working a shit ton of hours, and I would see a number that I didn't know pop up on my telephone. And as soon as I saw a number that I didn't recognize, I was like, this motherfucker needs something from me. I don't have anything for you. Don't you understand that I'm busy? They don't even know who I mean, they know who I am because they're calling me, but no, of course they don't know how busy I am, and it's none of their business. Like, how would they know that? But it was like, I was immediately either panicking. I've had panic attacks because of phone calls. So I was either panicking, or I was like immediately like, seriously? Like, don't these people realize?
What could you possibly want? Yeah.
What could you no, I already know that I'm going to say no to you because I can't possibly. And then my friends would call and ask to go to lunch, and I'd be like, are you serious? Who has time for lunch? Like, you've got to be kidding. Right? Yeah. When you start that, when you see that email pop in your inbox from that one client,
and your whole neurological system starts firing.
You're like, what am I going to do? What is going to be this time? Write those things down. We start really looking at where resentment is repeating itself, where the highest amounts of it are. And we start to put boundaries around those things. Boundaries in my world, just to be very clear, are not bitchy or bratty, ever.
Yeah.
They are clear, kind, and concise. You do not need to be aggressive and a jerk to create a boundary. I really dislike the messaging out there that's like, no is a full sentence. Like,
no, it's not. You sound like an asshole.
Yeah, you sound like a jerk. And you don't need to be a jerk to have a boundary. And you don't need to explain everything either. But there's a middle ground between being over accommodating and being cold.
Yeah. And I actually, it's great because I got a call from a client that I hadn't heard from in a long time. They're not a current client. And that person was used to me making myself much more available than I do now. And it felt so good. Guys, listen to this. It felt so good when she said, well, I don't have your personal phone number anymore, your personal cell phone number anymore. I said, yeah, I know. I don't give that out anymore.
Yeah.
Well, what am I supposed to do if I need to reach you? Well, you can call this number or you can email me. And if I'm during working hours, I'll absolutely respond to you. If I'm not, I'll get back when I am working and have the availability. And there was definitely some tension building on the other side.
Of course.
And well, there was plenty of me that was like, screw you. For
you
having
don't
an
need to say
towards
that.
Me about that.
But you changed the rules on her.
Yeah.
You changed the rules on her. So she's allowed to have tension about that.
So she's allowed to have tension about it.
Yeah.
It's been
you changed the rules.
It's been a long time since, our last interaction. But to be able to be calm.
Yeah.
And, my message to her, and I meant this sincerely, I said, I'm really protecting my personal time and time to do things that I enjoy and love in life in addition to my business. I hope you're doing that for yourself too. This is the way I do it.
Right. Modeling good boundaries.
And it's
perfect.
It felt so good because I didn't need to, dig up frustration that I had from a couple years ago or a year ago, the last time we talked. I didn't need to go look for that resentment.
Right. Right.
But that's where it was. I had that resentment. That's how I learned.
And that's how you learned how to change. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where you learn where your boundaries need to be. And I still look at resentment on a regular basis in my life, because your boundaries need to be updated and reinforced all the time. All the time. Resentment is if you are an entrepreneur, or not, even if not, resentment is the most powerful tool you are not using. Guaranteed. It will shift the way you do everything, right?
Because we feel it and we shame ourselves for it and we push it down.
Yeah. And then we're over accommodating, and then we're passive aggressive because we're annoyed that people want more from us than we actually want to give, but we gave more than we wanted to give. So,
yeah. What are they supposed to? Yeah.
What are they? What they're supposed to say? No. Like when we're over giving, you're like, oh, it's okay. I'll give you like 4 extra calls, and then you're going to be mad when they use them. Like, you did that. Keep your own boundaries and you set a really great boundary. And what you didn't do was say, yeah, well, I need time with my family too.
Yeah.
Right. That's not a good boundary. Like I said, you don't need to be, there's no reason to be aggressive or rude or a jerk around boundaries. Like, I'm just being really protective.
Yeah. And you can have an explanation without over-explaining.
Yeah.
Because over-explaining kind of gives, if you put yourself in the seat of the person receiving that over-explanation, especially if you're a problem solver.
Right.
If somebody comes to me with an over-explanation, I think they're bringing me a problem to solve.
Right.
If they say, well, I don't take calls on weekends, I really wish I could, but I have this factor, that factor, this and this, and that's why I can't. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll solve that for you. And then you can, yay.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And that's what over-explaining does. It invites them to solve that problem so that boundary can go away.
Well, and also the other thing that you did that was important was you didn't make it her responsibility to hold the boundary. You said, these are where my boundaries are. You can contact me, but I'll reply within my boundaries. So a really bad example, an example of a bad boundary, like I purchased this template online, and it was $75, and you can buy it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it's online. And it was a sales page, a long form sales page template. We all buy them. Like, it's just what I love them. Yeah, love them. Like, thanks for creating this. $75 sold to the highest bidder. Fine. And so Friday at like 2:00, I wrote them an email asking a question about something, because I wasn't sure how to change a color or something like that. I couldn't find the information. They wrote me back at 5:15. And so I just wrote back, thank you. Their autoresponder that goes on at 5:00 says, when you guys write us emails outside of office hours, it tears us away from our families. And because we love what we do so much, and we're so attached to our phones, and we really want to serve you. So if you could keep your emails to 9 to 5 hours, that would be really helpful, so that we're not pulled away from our family. And I was like, whoa, bitch, slow down.
Whoa.
It is not my job to hold your boundary for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote back to me outside of your boundary hours.
Yeah, you broke your own boundary, and then through your autoresponder chastised
me for saying thank you
for your inability to hold your own boundaries.
Right. It's not my job.
Yeah. And I have this conversation with my clients, because they'll go, I have told my people these are my hours, and then so-and-so just left me another message. I'm like, awesome. Don't even listen to it.
Yeah. Who cares?
Listen to it.
It used to make me mental. I'm the kind of person that can't have unread messages in my email box. Like, I used to get highly anxious about it. I don't anymore, because I've learned that I need to shut that down in order to hold my boundaries, so that people's expectations of me are shifted. When I start with a new coaching client, I let them know that I likely won't get back to them before 48 hours are up.
Yeah. And that expectation keeps everybody happy.
Yeah, because they know what to expect.
If they had a story in their mind that it was going to be 1 hour and it's 48, now they're pissed.
Right.
You told them 48, but you had an opening and ended up responding at 36.
Yeah.
Sweet. It's
I also
all
tell
about
them,
expectations.
You can write to me at Saturday at 2:00 in the morning. I probably won't write you back until Tuesday, because I don't check my email on the weekends.
Yeah. Great.
But feel free to write when you have a need, when you have an immediate need that you need to get something off your chest, something came up, you need me to know something, go for it.
Yeah.
Not going to read it until I'm back at my desk.
And us pruning that ourselves, us holding that own boundary, letting go of the story that I can't have unread emails.
Yeah.
Freaking.
Yeah. Of course
So that's what we're doing. We're finding the resentment.
Yeah.
Pruning and setting those boundaries.
Yep.
What'd you say? Clear, concise, and kind?
Yes. Boundaries should be clear, kind, and concise. So when they get too wordy, you're not being concise. If you feel like you're being a jerk, double check it. You might not be, because sometimes we're worried about that when we shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Is it simply direct? Does it have all the information in it? Is it a lie? Because if it is, it needs to be rolled back. People ask to be on the podcast all the time. And I don't really take too many guest pitches. I get pitched 5 to 7 times a week. I do 24 guest episodes a year. So, I have a lot more pitches than I have spots for. And usually I'm searching someone out that I want for a particular reason. I'm not looking through
I'm looking
guest
for this
pitches.
Topic,
Right, exactly. So I don't really take them much. But instead of being like, I have like this wait list and you're like on the bottom, I usually say something like, give them an out and not invite them to write back to me. Because what I used to say, and I learned this because I started to get resentful, what I used to say was, right now the schedule is full. Then they reach back out and how's your schedule looking now? And I'm like, oh, I just sort of hoped you'd forget about me. Right. And so I realized after some time that boundary wasn't clear. So now I say, I'm not taking guest pitches at the moment. Your story sounds interesting. I sometimes write for Thrive Global. If you haven't written your story for them yet, I highly suggest that. It's a good place to get attention around stories around burnout. Have a great day. So I'm being kind. I'm saying I'm not taking guest pitches. I'm giving them something useful. Giving them
a really awesome resource. Yeah.
Yeah. Give them something useful. I can be gracious about it. Mm-hmm. But the email is 3 sentences long.
Yeah.
I don't even put the link to Thrive Global. Like, I'm not your VA. You can Google Thrive Global.
Yeah. If that's too hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you'll be fine.
So when we've done that, where do we start healing?
So once you have started to put up boundaries, you'll notice that you have a lot more energy than you thought you did. And then the question becomes, what are your wants, needs, desires, and preferences?
And now you feel like so spoiled because you actually get to even consider those things.
Yes.
Peeing.
You can pee when you want. No problem. You can buy that extra expensive tea that you really love. When you make a sandwich, if you really prefer very thinly sliced tomatoes, you can be like, you know what? I'm going to slice these. I'm going to thin slice these tomatoes because that's my preference. Most of us don't even know what our preferences are. It took me years to notice that I actually had preferences. We were getting ready for a hike one day. The tomatoes is a real thing for me. I was getting ready for a hike one day and I started making sandwiches, and I started really thinly slicing the tomatoes because, I'm one of those people, like, if you are going to, be up in my house, or if I'm going to be at your house and you're going to make me toast and you do not butter that toast all the way to the edges, like, we are no longer friends. It needs to, I want to have the flavor everywhere. I don't want to have dry bits, and it works the same with tomatoes. I want the bite of my sandwich to have a tomato in it. So if you cut this thick slice, it's going to slide around and it's not going to cover everything. But if you cut a couple of thin slices, then you can spread them out and you get the whole sandwich has tomato on it.
Tomato in every bite.
Do you know how long it took me in my life to be able to be like, oh my God, I really prefer to do it this way? This is the kind of stuff that you get to decide and know about yourself when you spend time thinking, how do I meet my needs? Start with that. How do you pee on time? How do you drink when you're thirsty? How do you focus on the basic bodily needs? And you say, well, what are my wants and desires? What kind of lights me up? What turns me on? And then preferences is something you should be starting to ask yourself every day. If I had a choice between A and B, what's my choice? Because we often defer to somebody else's choice. We say, oh, right, you choose and I'll go along with it. No, sometimes you can do that when you really don't care. Fine. Okay, fine.
Sure.
Whatever. If you really don't
you don't
care.
have to die on every hill, but yeah.
But if you were really wanting Mexican and you got offered Mexican and sushi and you're like, it doesn't matter, then lose your attitude when you end up at sushi.
And it's the little things. Do I want to listen to music today? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
What kind do I want to listen to?
Yes.
Do I want 17 plants in my office? Why, yes, I do.
What? As a matter of fact.
I can pick that I want those things. And each one of those things, when you look at them and experience them, bring you a little bit of joy and a little bit of empowerment to take it to the next level.
And make you a little bit more yourself. Keep you a little bit more aligned. It's really easy to fall out of alignment when we are not in touch with our wants, needs, desires, and preferences. How can you be aligned with yourself if you don't even know how you like your friggin' tomato slice?
That's so true.
Like, people talk about being in alignment and they're
I hope
talking
everyone
about
that
meditating.
listens to this show has a new demand for how their tomato is sliced.
Like,
you get to even say you don't like tomato. I'll judge you.
If you
get
want.
to say it.
You can put pickles on your sandwiches. I don't want them on mine. That is not my preference. Don't like a pickle, not a fan. Right? But these are the kinds of things that really keep us in alignment. We think that in order to be aligned, we need to meditate and chant, and which I love. I do all those things.
Sweet.
Yes,
that's awesome too.
But you cannot be aligned if you're not peeing when you have to pee, if you're not eating the food that you want to eat, if you're not paying attention to, do you want your sandwich cut down the middle or do you want it cut at an angle? What's your preference? Because I bet if you really think about it, you have one.
You have one. Demand your sandwich slice.
Demand your sandwiches, man.
And everybody's going to want sandwiches after this. I know I do.
I just had a tuna melt. Love a good sandwich.
Yeah. Do you put tomato on your tuna melt?
I don't usually, and I didn't know there was going to be one on there, but I enjoyed it today. I didn't make it myself.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And this is where, we wrap this all up in a pretty package. This is where we really get to serve our passion the way we pictured it when we set that goal.
Yeah.
This is where we get to have our business be our passion, and we get to serve people the way we want to, because our cup is full of plants and tomatoes and the music we like.
Yep. The simple things. You can't be in alignment if you hate the chair you sit in at your desk every day, because every time you sit in it, you're annoyed. You might not even register it anymore.
Yeah.
But if you start paying attention to resentment, you'll notice that 4 days in a row, you were like, this fucking chair is so ugly and I'm so sick of looking at it.
Chair.
And it's crooked and it makes my ass hurt, and F this chair.
Yeah. And you get to change your chair. I don't care if you've had that chair for 10 years. It can go to the curb.
I don't care if you bought it last week. Sell it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Sell it.
Somebody else may love that chair.
Let somebody else love that chair. Get one that your butt enjoys.
Again, there's no waste. You can sell it. Somebody else will appreciate. Yep. There's no waste. Yes. And there is no good outcome by insisting to martyr yourself to some other commitment you made without all the information.
Amen.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Cait, I feel like we could do 7,000 episodes.
We probably could start another the Katie and Sarah show. That could happen.
I literally, as that came out of my mouth, I was like, I guess we could just do one that's just
yeah, we could just the amazing thing is we make these decisions ourselves.
We do. And if it's our preference, we can do it. So ladies and gentlemen, watch what you're resentful for. Even if it's your kids, that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It means you need to reset the structure.
It means you're probably repeating a structure that your parents used that you now realize is not useful.
Yeah. Watch those resentments. What's next? Prune them away.
Build the boundaries where they need to be built. With that, a little bit of extra energy that you gain when you start cutting stuff out that really irritates you all, because resentment is a real big energy drain.
Oh, once you're not, that will pull the drain plug
energy out. Yeah. Once your energy starts to build again because you're not so irritated all the time, start to really tune in. What do I want? What do I need? What's my desire here? What's my preference in this situation? You don't always have to get your preference either. You should meet all your needs. Wants, desires, and preferences are bonuses that you should get sometimes, and sometimes somebody else's preference will win out, and that's okay.
And that's okay, because they
But just know.
Yeah, they should
just
fill
know.
their cup too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Knowing
but
what
just
those
know.
are.
Know what they are.
Not being indifferent for the sake of indifference.
For the sake of what you think is ease. That just ticked me right off.
I'm easy. I'm easy.
I'm easy. No, it's much easier for me if you tell me whether you want the lemon flavored water or the orange flavored water. I don't want to choose for you. Just friggin' tell me what your preference is.
Poor waiters when people are like, what's your favorite thing on the menu?
Maybe this is why this irritates me so bad. Right. I was a waitress and a bartender for 12 years. So maybe I'm just like, maybe that's why I centers around food. Yeah. No, tell me what you want. Actually, I kind of liked that game sometimes because I'd say, okay, give me the base alcohol. And then I just make them whatever the hell I wanted and be like, now you're stuck with it.
You better not bitch.
You asked for it.
About this.
You asked for it. I put whiskey and beer in this glass. Tough shit.
I might like that. That actually sounds glorious.
It's called the whiskey. Sarah.
This has been lovely. So in the show notes, there will be a link to buy the Bounce Back Ability Factor. All that you need to read like every quarter. Every way that you can reach out to Cait, you need to listen to her podcast, Friday the Burnout Podcast. You can catch the 2 episodes I'm on. And yeah.
And I'll send you, there's also a resentment journal mini course.
Oh, send me that. I'll put the link to it on here.
It's a good way to get started. If you're a little afraid, you're not sure which questions to ask, you're not sure how the boundaries should be set, you're not sure when you don't know what to do, with it, and you're afraid to let it out, there's a system. I have a system.
I love it. I'll put that in show notes. Everybody, thanks for joining us. This has been so much fun. I hope everybody's had as much fun as we had. And catch us on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.